Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Challenge 41 Wrap Up Podcast for episode 8. I am Brian Cohen. Me, as always, is my co-host, Ali Lasher. How are you?
Ooh, that was long. Good, how are you?
Doing good. Good episode. Getting down to the point where we're about to shake things up. I think it's about time for it. Ready to get to the next phase of the game, but pretty good episode.
Yeah, I think we were speculating last week, and I'm never right about anything. So I and maybe I'm even wrong about remembering what I said, but like if they're going to tell you something's going to change, they're not going to give you runway to like think about it. It's going to be like immediately pull the rug out. But at least the players seemed to know it was imminent. So that was cool to see them really strategizing with what we currently understand to be complete information.
Yeah.
Who knows what will happen next week?
Yeah, absolutely. Next week, we have an individual thing, which we have a fun little detour before. Maybe we lock things down. But I have a corrections department. I know this is usually your terrain, but before we steer too on track, let's steer off track a little bit. Like Emily doesn't watch the challenge; she doesn't watch our podcast. But when she comes up in conversation, I tell her. And the conversation last week intrigued her about like where I am, where we podcast from.
Okay.
And one thing she took exception to was she didn't like that I made her out to be like, oh, I'm kicking you out of the bedroom, like kicking you out of the studio to do the podcast. She's like, I'm very supportive of the community. And she wanted to emphasize, like, when she wants to go to sleep, she's 33 weeks pregnant. She wants to go to sleep when she wants to go to sleep. So she's not trying to be a mean person. She just wants for me to politely relocate during that time. So she just wanted me to emphasize that point.
The record shall so reflect. I mean, if it helps, I interpreted your, and I maybe have more visibility into not maybe. I certainly have more visibility into your relationship than the listeners. I interpreted your location to be very self-imposed, to be like a thoughtful husband mode, not like an Emily fee-fi-fo-fumming in and making you not able to be in there.
That is what I was going for. I will play this clip for her next week, and we'll report back if I've conveyed the message in the appropriate tone and verbiage.
One other thing, not a correction, but something before we talk about this episode. Matt Ligori put this on Twitter, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, last week, every week. I'm not really up on Twitter, but I did happen to see this tweet. And it bears, like, repeating for the podcast that, like, this is a very good season of the challenge. And, I don't want that to be, like, I was a little bit, I think, if we're all reflecting on our podcast performance last week, I don't have an Emily who's, like, auditing what I say, but I wish I did. Actually, if Emily has any notes for me, I would take them gladly. I feel like sometimes it can be like a little in the weeds, a little negative throughout the episode, whatever, this challenge, not a lot of debate, whatever. Taking stock 8 episodes in, which is probably not even close to halfway, but taking stock 8 episodes in, as we're about to at least approach a shakeup, this is an excellent season of the challenge.
Yeah, and honestly, I want to give credit to producers. I feel like it's very easy to poke fun at reality TV production for making stupid decisions and doing things poorly. I think this format has worked great. I think, a lot of the other seasons, when they do this mid-season shakeup to a new format, it is when things are going well, and it's like, oh, why are they doing that? Like, I would think back to, like, Ride or Dies. I feel like that season was going very well, and then they did a stupid shakeup with the 2 teams, and it killed the momentum. 39, they did the 3 segments, and I felt like if they just did like the last segment the whole time, there was a fun show there. Here, it's like I feel like we're getting to a natural conclusion of like these hangnails. We're seeing different iterations of it. People are like gaming it a little bit, and I think we've reached a good stage where it's like, all right, now let's lock things in and let's go to let's ride it out to the final. So I want to give production some. I think this format has worked well. I know that we've got some critiques with it, like the A weeks and B weeks. Maybe like they're a little dispowered, but overall, I think it's been a pretty good job by production this season.
Yeah, and if anything, like maybe there's criticism to be leveled about like how players are or are not like playing the game to their advantage, playing the format to the advantage. I think that comes, into play a lot this episode and has come into play in a lot of past episodes. But in any case, like we cannot say the challenge does not try new things and are not constantly innovating. And I do want to level a critique of media press. Like there was some article in, I don't know, Vulture, Variety, some like important, I don't know, I shouldn't say important, more important than us, like journalistic medium that was like talking about like the new goals, like with the acquisition of Paramount and whatever else, a merger, that they want to like revive MTV, and the VMAs are a big part of that. And they talked about how MTV has become just like a pit stop for ridiculousness, and did not mention the challenge, which like has to be in the conversation for like one of the only viable products coming out of Paramount MTV right now. And so like, justice for the challenge, the little engine that could, which frankly has no business continuing to be on the air as MTV like guts its complete programming besides like Teen Mom and this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Look, I know, like, ridiculousness, first of all, is usually like a punchline when talking about MTV. It's like, why is that show on all the time? And like, I know Traders is like the new place where all the reality TV people go, but the challenge still scoops up big names from, all these other shows. I mean, D is a Survivor winner, like American Blue were pretty popular, like on their season. Like, they're still scooping up the big names across these US reality shows. So come on over. Join the fun.
And the challenge is either under the radar with Jeff Probst or not a threat to him, or he likes appealing to a youth audience, because it does not seem to have pissed off. Being on the challenge does not seem to have pissed off Jeff Probst in potentially the same way that being on the Traders does.
No, so, it would be fun to see TJ Lavin at the Emmys doing a introduction of like doing like a hall brawl between John Oliver and SNL about who is going to win an Emmy. That would be kind of fun if we get to that point.
All right. Speaking into existence, we're manifesting here. More justice for Lecca? No, justice for the challenge.
Justice for CT. You know what? I like Lecca. I want her back. Justice for CT. I'm sorry, they have still not given me at all a reasonable reason why CT would have thrown that daily, made himself look like a complete buffoon, just to put Lecca into elimination. I'm sorry. Yeah, he climbed it this week. He had a better week. What do you like? He's now supposed to suck at climbing for the rest of his life because he sucked at climbing that week? He didn't throw it for Lecca. Justice for CT.
Yeah. So I'm so glad we're going to be on the same side of this, honestly. And I don't care if like the newer listeners are like over CT. You will not make me hate CT. Like this season will not make me doubt CT, will not make me call in to question his integrity. Like you could never make me anti-CT, no matter how hard CT is trying this season. I think, and I would need confirmation from D, but like jumping ahead to their conversation where D looks him square in the eye and is like, I believe you threw it for Lecca. I don't think the smarter new threats, who I'm not even sure who the smarter newts are, but like the tier of whoever the smart newts are, maybe it's all of them. I don't think they believe for 1 second that CT threw it for Lecca. It's just an easy thing to like for D to look at CT square in the face and be like, I know we have a relationship. I don't want this to ruin our relationship, but I do have to act out of the fact that I think you threw it. It's such a Survivor move. Like she's got an excuse and she can just look at him in the face and be like, you're too good. I think you threw it, even though it makes absolutely no sense. So I don't know that I'm convinced that all of these people actually think he threw it. I think they don't want to be weighed down by CT in the final. What I can understand is like Jeremy, like maybe Jeremy and Turbo believe that CT threw it. But to me, the women want CT out and they're doing it behind Justice for Lecca because they don't want to run the final with him. And, more sympathetic I could not be for this season with CT.
Yeah, I just would love... Look, maybe she does say any confessionals and they're just choosing not to show it, but I would love a confessional of her or like anyone else being like, yeah, of course he didn't throw it. That'd be stupid, but I'm going to play into it. I'm using my Survivor game of like you play into the narrative and you do stuff like that to get people on your side. I would love to have that confessional. Maybe she's saying it and they're not, and they're just cutting it. But for now, all I could go off is like these seemingly believing it. And I think, who was it? I think it might have been either Ashley or Michaela. I don't know. Someone mentioned the fact that like the veteran guy Crop, and this has kind of been the theme of like this season, honestly, is pretty weak. So it's like, yeah, on a normal season, CT, this version of CT may seem like an anchor. But if you're a rookie woman, like, are there that many better options that you're picking from? Like, you're going to have to be paired up with one of these people. As I mentioned, Theo, I'd rather be with CT than Theo. I understand Leroy seems more spry, but as he points out, he's like the most famous loser in the history of the show. So at some point, like CT just is appealing just from who he's up against.
Yeah, so it's interesting because I do think somebody who can't run up the mountain, which Theo and CT both can't do, is the worst possible partner. Like, I'd rather have Leroy, Derek K, Derek C. Like, after CT's performance in the first challenge, I think the veteran, the rookie women would be hard pressed to find a worse pairing for the final, when the final is usually a good amount of running endurance required.
But
that said,
sorry, go.
No, go ahead. I
was gonna, but I feel like we've seen this from CT. Like, I know it's going back to episode 0, like when he sucked, but I feel like that's how he was in like War of the Worlds. Like, he came in, he was a mess. He was like big time dad CT, and by the time he got to the final, he was like ripping and roaring and destroying that final. And I think it's kind of starting to show here. Like, he's getting himself into shape. He was climbing this thing, as you know, a couple weeks later. So I don't know. I think he's, by the time I would, to me, the upside, like if you get to a final, you just like, you're going to put your body through that. You want to have the upside of winning. And like with CT, it's like, to me, it's like, if you have CT in the final, it's like two options. It's either justice for who you are, because CT is going to crap the bed and you're going to lose. And it's like, oh, I would have won, but CT took me down. Or CT turns it around, or the final is not geared as much to endurance, and you have like the best person you could possibly have in a final with you when you go on the win. So I think it's almost like a dream setup. Like, there's like, you're in a great spot.
Certainly not a dream setup, because right, if you're just as happy to return to the challenge as you are to win, then maybe you're covered most likely on both sides, because you're not going to have, oh, I lose with Leroy and that helps me come back the next season, as much as CT screws me. You know, if Tay and CT run the final and Tay is performing extremely well and she loses because of CT, that increases her likelihood of coming back by 1,000 in a way that her being paired with any of the other vet men does not, even if the same outcome happens. That said, I just still think, like, the way some of these pairings are, unless you're saying that no rookie woman male vet pairing has win equity in the final, which actually might be the case.
I think that's the case. I think with this crop, with who's left, honestly, I would, if I was one of the rookie women, the person I would most want to run a final with is the one they sent to the slaughtering dogs, and now is Derek Chavez.
Right.
I feel like he's the one who has the most final winning equity.
Turbo. We're forgetting Turbo.
Oh, Turbo. Yeah, Turbo's number one. Turbo's number one for sure. Okay, so Turbo's number one, but like only one person can be with Turbo, and if it's like it's a fait accompli that, like, I think it was like Sydney, I think, has the most point. Like, she's set up to be with him. Like, everyone else should be like, all right, who's my best chance of beating Turbo in a final? I think it could be like a Derek Chavez, or if the things break right, CT. I mean, because the problem is, like, with Leroy, Derek K, like, they've all really struggled in these puzzle aspects of these things. That could be a big problem. Plus, Derek K still recovering from his like ACL, which could still, rear his ugly head. And Theo, I think, he's a mess in basically everything he does. So, like that's really all the vet crop right there. So to me, it's like you put Turbo with a bullet. Number one is like the best pick on the board, and honestly, like comparatively, he's probably like in terms of like war, basically, like that will be that. Like, he's so far above the rest of his peers. He's like so far above. And then I think it would be Derek Chavez or CT for the vet men, who I'd want to be paired with for a final.
I think CT cannot win this final. So again, if you don't think you can win with any of the other vet men besides Turbo, which I'm willing to say is a realistic possibility, that anyone who's paired with a vet man is potentially more than likely drawing dead going into the final, if the final is as it normally is. So then I think CT's only benefit is he's your most likely person that you'd come back and you'd be able to come back. So, like, if that's akin to winning, then he's the next best possible partner. But I don't think he has any more likelihood to win this final than any of the other vet men besides Theo. I think he's still better than Theo. That conversation with Dee and Jeremy was so stupid when she was like, yeah, I think Theo would be better than CT. Absolutely not.
Like, at what? At what? Yeah. Like, no.
If they're puzzles, you're gone. Like, look at Ashley and Theo in the driving. So something I want to go back to which I like have in my notes, is Brian okay? Like, check if Brian's okay. When in the very beginning, Olivia, and we have to really talk about the downfall of Olivia this episode, and not a great episode for Olivia. But when she's like talking about, you know, she doesn't understand why the votes when it did, and nobody cared about Izzy going home, and even Tay's friends, which I want to talk about more. Theo then says, I'm this close to going absolute carnage mode. I was just like, get Brian an EpiPen or an inhaler, because after probably the worst performance of any like high ranking, high expectation vet, hard pressed to find somebody putting up a worse performance overall than Theo. The fact that he's still out here being like, I'm just hold me back because I'm about to go all out. Where has it been?
What's so frustrating about that is that, again, my favorite thing all season has been Olivia clowning him. And she was right there. Like, I would have loved for her to be like, we're waiting, bro. Like, do it at any time. Like, come on, let's go. That would have been an all-timer.
If looks could kill, he'd be on the ground, because she looked like her face said it, but like she's dating this man. Like, what do you want her to do?
And the funny thing is, like, this could have been an all-time great elimination, because I actually think the one thing Theo would be good at right now is like a pole wrestle. So him versus CT in a pole wrestle actually would have been a lot of fun if they decided to like go the smart route of trying to get Theo out. But that's not here nor there.
But one thing Theo does say is, he's like, if a male rookie goes home, there will be one vet pair. Now, I have everything charted. I know who's still here, which gender, which stripe. You know, I'm not going to be able to figure out like what we would need to have certain combinations. But assuming Theo is correct, it is fresh. So like, perhaps that's what was, you know, at issue here, where it's like, okay, I want to get CT out because I want to get enough male vets out so that I have a rookie partner if I'm a rookie woman. Like, maybe that's going out, especially D, somebody who has like lower points than like a Sydney. But I already take issue, and I know we discussed it last week, the idea that potentially a person with lower points could potentially be rewarded by being a part of that like vet team or the rookie teams, depending on how the odds fall. I think if you have the most points and it's already predetermined that there will be one team of the same stripe, you should be able to pick a person of your same stripe. You should have your first pick overall of the configurations and the people. It is baffling to me that Theo could like luck into a good position by being just like a lower down male vet.
Yeah, 100% agree. I think if they know the numbers, there's gonna be one rookie and one vet pair. You should have the choice of like, all right, you could like whoever the top pick are, you could make that pick. The one on the like to Theo's point, I don't know how it would work out to your benefit though. Like if you're like the last people picked, because for someone like D, like yeah, maybe she has like lower amount of points, but she's gonna be picked by like a vet male. Like she'll probably be like second or third off, like very high off the board of the rookie women. It's not like she's gonna be like the forgotten people. It's gonna like the forgotten people, like the vet pair. Like Anissa's gonna be part of that pair. So like if you're Theo, like I don't know, like oh great, you're gonna be paired with Anissa. Isn't that like really bad?
Yeah.
Like, so I don't know how. To me, it's like it's not gonna work out to your advantage. I just wish it could work out to someone's advantage by making the top pick of who you would want to be with.
100%. That said, Anissa has 30 points and D has 14 points. Like Anissa is probably going to be picking her own partner and pretty high up, depending on how the next, the individual elimination like week goes next week. And, I think have a really high opinion of D's ability to perform because of Survivor. And which I think just the audience has a high opinion of D coming into this. But if people didn't know D, like she hasn't really been performing that well. And we had that confusing, was it CT last week who was like, D doesn't perform well. So it will be very interesting when these individual picks are made in a way that the partner picks have not mattered at all because they've been so limited in who they can pick. Right. It will be very interesting to me to see how people evaluate the strengths of the rest of the cast.
Yeah, and I hope they allow the cast and like the episode to like have some time with this decision. Like I think so next week it seemed like it's some sort of individual thing. Probably some sort of like a purge or a double elimination or something like that, where it's going to be like eliminations on all sides. I hope they don't just like jump immediately into the picks. I hope they allow them to go back and like allow us to assess like who's left, what's the order and how it like should go down. Like I would almost want that to be like its own side episode, like a quick like 30-minute side episode of just this draft theoretically, because I think there'd be a lot of intrigue. And I hope they don't just be like, all right, after like the next eliminations, make your picks, everyone. Like I hope they let that moment breathe.
Yeah, how do you let's just like speculate. We'll jump ahead. That's what the challenge does anyway. Like, so I was desperately trying to remember what happened with the mountain thing, because that was an individual elimination. And then like the order you finished was the order you were able to pick your partner. Obviously, that can't be what happens here because they have the points to look out for. So presumably, like the finishers in the top 8 of each gender will get the same amount of points. But do you think there's like so you think there's going to be a purge? I was wondering if just like the last to finish. Sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry. Yeah, go for it.
If like the last to finish, even if they have the most points, get like paired up and have to go into the first elimination. And then like everybody else. Like I know that's not what's going to happen, but I was like, that would be interesting if there's like one more opportunity for even like a high point getter to like have to perform.
But yeah, I said purge. I don't think it's going to be a purge, but I think it's just going to be a double elimination. I just think it's going to be like a men's challenge and a women's challenge, and whoever finishes last goes in, and like the winners will just pick who goes against them. And then and then after that we lose, abandon a woman, and whoever's left, I think then from there you do your picks. That's what I think is going to happen.
Fair enough. Probably.
But I could be. I'm usually very wrong.
No, so. I mean, the simplest answer is probably the right one. All right, let's take it back to the top of this episode because I have to complain about Olivia. And again, it's my joy to be able to complain about this. So the episode was great. It's not a real complaint, but she's saying she doesn't understand why both Nani and Ashley are happy about Izzy going home, as though Izzy wasn't a threat to them, which is like, I don't know. Like, again, it's like Olivia forgetting what happened with like the Bananas camp and her camp and her UK alliance. I know she did try to make it more like it's not so divided and they had some unanimous votes going in, but just like we've been watching the episode. And then she says she doesn't understand why even Tay's friends didn't prevent Izzy from going in, which would have been like America and Adrienne. Theo and Olivia sent Izzy in. Like America voted for D, Adrienne voted for Janae, and you two numbskulls threw your vote. Like Olivia's crocodile tears this whole episode really like pissed me off the whole time. Now, I will asterisk that she was pregnant, so I can't imagine what she's going through. And she doesn't know. But like just from watching the episode, I was every scene Olivia had boggled my mind.
Yeah, and I wish we got more of the scenes. Like we got a little glimpse of it, but we more so got it of people talking about it, of Olivia having these like sit downs of like, well, why should I pick you to be my partner? Why should we pick you? Like, I would have loved to see those moments. I don't know where the camera was because I think those would have been interesting. Because the one thing that's interesting about that is, if you flash back like 5 years ago, like Olivia would be one of like the absolute strongest women on a season, like very much like would be a clear cut pick. Like all the men would want to be with her. But amongst this crew, like there are a lot of very strong women. So like it's not so obvious, like, oh, I have to be with Olivia, otherwise I'm going to be with some, useless partner and I got no chance of winning a final and like she's going to win. Like between Michaela, D, Aviv, even throw in like Ashley or not, like there's so many women. Sydney, like there's so many women that these men could be paired up with. From like either like that, it's not that essential to be with someone of Olivia's stature because there's plenty of other people. Tay is doing really well. Like all of the women are like holding their own. That if this was like a normal season and this was like the Cara spot, like all the men would be like, yeah, why Cara can interview all of them? Like why should you be with me? Here it's like, I don't know. Sure, I don't need to be with Olivia because she's got a big target. I'll just work with D. I'll work with Michaela. There's so many other options.
It's another real triumph of the format. The fact that, as far as we know, and the numbers are suggesting this, that like they're going to play a few rounds with their permanent partner. It's not just a let's match up and go to the final. Because I think if it was let's match up and go to a final, Olivia would be in higher demand from some of these people. But if we're going to have to play a few weeks of the game and they're presuming at least that it will be a paired elimination, then like they have to factor that in. And to your point, she's not better enough than any of these women at a final than she is as like to make up for how down she is in the house in her position. And like Olivia has good enough game sense to like understand this. So again, like the woe is me factor was tough to stomach. But also, she's going to be able to pick her own partner. Olivia, at least at this point, is in the top 3 women. So, like, I understand now after looking at the numbers. So, just like jumping ahead to the finishes of this episode, Cedric, Will, and Jeremy are the top point havers for the men, and Michaela, Olivia, and Sydney are the top point havers for the women. And so, it's like, yeah, maybe you won't get picked by whoever picks before you in Will, Jeremy, and Cedric, but you will have your pick of the litter, and they won't. What are they going to do? Say, no, I decline her as my partner? Like, it's not that serious.
Right. And I don't think you can, right? Like, I don't think they can say
no. Yeah, so, you could quit. You could quit over it.
Yeah. So, yeah, I
don't know. Yeah. Anyway, one thing that was really funny to me, and the upstairs downstairs alliance explained by Theo, Anissa is the only person not included in either alliance.
Honestly, I love that for her. That's a great spot. She's just like floating on by, doing her own thing. I mean, she's got to be wherever Olivia is, right? Isn't it the whole thing? She like kind of like stuck her neck out to like basically pick Olivia's side. So I guess toss her with the downstairs crew.
Yeah, I don't know if like Theo knows that Anissa is by default with them locked in, because like the upstairs alliance has kind of rejected her now based on that. But it was funny to see her omitted from both sides.
It was.
Speaking of funny, we have to talk about the Turbo Derek C confrontation.
Yeah, it's Turbo. Turbo is not happy with Derek, and coming out with a new nickname. He's become the nickname guy. Gives Derek the nickname Derek FF, fake as fuck. Is Derek Chavez, because Turbo's not happy that he feels
expletives.
He feels Derek was targeting him because of the points. Turbo and Derek are neck and neck with on the male side of who has the most points, and he wants to get Turbo out. Turbo, as Derek mentioned, he wasn't really targeting Turbo at that time. It was more so Turbo's partner and nothing to do with Turbo, but he doesn't want to be hanging. So Turbo took a great exception to that.
I think a few episodes ago, I wouldn't be on Turbo's side here. However, like since the Olivia hang now, like, and I know like Theo goes unvoted for this week, so we have to discuss that. But like, I think it is fair at this stage to view a vote against your partner when on the week of a hang now as a potential vote against you. And like the real slip, and I think it's like poetic that Justin is here cheesing through this whole confrontation. But like Derek's has a great physical game, that has only improved as he's gotten older, which is really impressive and certainly not the case for a lot of the vets here. But his real strength is his social game. Mm-hmm. And at least the edit we saw this season as he goes home this week is his social game has completely failed him. It's slipping. And it started with Justin.
Yep.
It didn't help with Leo at the club.
Nope.
And like now it's Turbo. And like Derek is well versed in the social relationships in the house enough to know that if you're going to vote for Turbo, like you've got to have a plan. And when Turbo confronts him, now granted, FF is a way better nickname than a lot of the other nicknames Turbo's given people in the past. Mm-hmm. But like Derek, I don't know, is he tired of these people? Like, is he over like mending fences? Because we see him kind of roll over like he did with Justin. Like he didn't really work hard to repair the Justin relationship. He doesn't work hard to like coddle Turbo in this moment. And I feel like Derek just is over appeasing the lunatics on the show that he's normally very good at working with.
My psychology 101 take is I think Derek's performance on 40, while it was obviously very good, he almost won the final, placed very highly. It had a very much a negative effect on him here because I think it disproportionately inflated his perception or his internal perception of his physical ability. Like Derek in 40 was playing smartly scared in the sense that like he knew he could not go into elimination. He knows his strength is the social game and doing endurance and puzzles and skills in the final. So he needed to do whatever he possibly could, work with whoever he can to stay out of elimination. I think he did so well on 40 that he came in here thinking like, I could do with my social game. I could try to appease these people, but you know what? I trust myself. I feel like I could win elimination. I could put myself in there and I could win. And he should know better that, yeah, he could win some eliminations, like he won one earlier this year, but he needs luck on his side in elimination between who he's going up against and what the elimination is. And if he has like a middle of the road or has this one tilted very much against him, he goes home like that. So he needs to play with more fear of like, I cannot go into an elimination. I think that he lost that a little bit this season.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think the other thing I would add to that is that Derek, at least in this episode, and if I think back, I think largely is like usually on the side of making a rational move, or he's owning that he's making an emotional move, right? But like in this case, like his pitches of why he shouldn't go in were not only better for him, but they met the like Steven Fishback and Rob Cesternino rules of Survivor of like, you have to explain your moves in the way that is best for the person you're explaining them to.
Mm-hmm.
And it actually, to me, made no sense for Derek to have been the pick to go in this week, both if your goal was getting rid of CT or if your goal was advancing to have a great partner in the final. Like, it just logically, Derek's arguments for not wanting to go in were correct, but he was not accounting for the irrational actors of the new threats who are both looking to make splashes to return on TV in a way that some people in 40 don't feel like they have to, or generally people who are emotional actors like Turbo. So it just like, I feel my heart goes out to Derek, but I don't think he was like working hard enough, both to your point, to avoid elimination and both to appeal to people who are not necessarily acting in their best interest in the game logically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I completely agree. He had the points. He didn't convey that enough properly.
I do want to applaud Turbo because, like, if you thought Kara's roast was good this season, here comes and like again, speaking of irrational actors, is like Turbo is the strongest man in the house at this point, and he wants to run with good people, and he's criticizing Derek for wanting to run against people he could beat, which is again illogical. But like CT can't run, boom, roasted. Leroy can't do puzzles, boom, roasted. Theo can't even run 1 mile, boom, roasted. Like, you know, it doesn't have the same punchlines as Kara's, but it does get the point across.
There would be a dynamic duo at a roast. It would be very fun. Play by play and color commentary between the two of them.
Also, as if Theo's performance hasn't been embarrassing enough this season, which, by the way, Turbo later is like feels bad for Theo with his knee, which is so frustrating that like because Turbo idolizes CT, he's pissed at CT's bad performance, right. But like somehow like Theo is getting away with like Turbo sympathies. But insult to injury here, or insult to no injury, really, is like a whole episode arc being made of like, oh, maybe the reason Theo is terrible is because he's like injured, and then he gets cleared by MRI as not having an injury.
It's been a big year for the what are the Brazil? Is that where they are? Brazil, the Brazilian MRI.
They're in Chile, but
the Chilean MRIs have been, big point of emphasis this season. It's like they got MRI coming. Is this Chekhov's MRI? Will there be an MRI checkpoint in the final?
I mean, the older the contestants are that keep coming back, they need MRIs to clear them. They're gonna have to do the like Prenuvo scan, sponsored by Prenuvo, to like check everybody out before they come.
It's like TSA pre-check before a final. Everyone go through the MRI scans. Come on. Let's check
Although then they'd really be having like a pregnancy issue. Then you really need to make sure people aren't pregnant if you're throwing them through an MRI.
Well, you know what? Maybe it's a good reason to start checking people once they are.
I'm going to be screaming about the way they treat actually, let me scream about it right now. No. Okay. Sorry. I'm trying to think if there's anything really we're talking about before the daily. Like Leroy does his little sad for me. I'm just happy to be here. Like, okay. Kind of a sad moment for Leroy. He's really not getting a great edit.
Yeah, but as he pointed out, he's kind of playing into it, lowering his threat level to a point. So he's got that going for him.
I mean, it is true what he says, that like it is amazing that like the winningest person in the show in CT, none of the women want, and that like he's the losingest person there. Like at least people want him more than CT, but like okay,
yeah, I mean,
kind of a bummer.
Yeah, at least they haven't been one of like normally the curse of Leroy is like your partner gets hurt. If the women knew that, they would be steering clear of him, but hasn't been that way in a bit.
True. All right, let's talk about the daily because I'm itching to scream about this.
All right, we'll get to the daily right after this. All right, we're back. Daily this week. Drive me crazy. Nope, that was last week. Challenge daily this week. Cyclone. In pairs, they have to climb up a revolving cyclone above water. Another classic heights above water. TJ's favorite thing in the whole world. Climb up, transport blocks up the cyclone to the top. 5 of them. And then theoretically, after you do all 5, you're supposed to jump in, swim to, or kayak, swim to the platform, or swim to the raft, and that's when your time stops.
Hated this challenge, boring, like snooze, made me sick watching it, and like it's just because they had the apparatus from like the time they had to jump through it. But I have 2 things to scream about.
All right, let's do it.
If you like, I understand it's a little different, but in Survivor, like my understanding is if you need medical attention to determine if you can like stay in the game, like an MRI, you get pulled. Like they're not gonna like take you off, hold the game, or let you like go to tribal council without this person and then have them show back up in the game to be cleared, which like maybe sucks for the players. But watching this happen twice now in this season, where like the impact of the game is affected by how long the MRI takes, makes me appreciate that they do that on Survivor. Because like, if you can't get a turnaround time to clear somebody where you don't have to impact the daily, then that person has to be removed. Because it is so frustrating to me that the decision made here is that like Theo is disqualified from the challenge because he has to just get an MRI, and he will become the hangnail, and they will repair Will and D. It is so frustrating to me that they're just like making a decision because he happens to be, you know, need an MRI the week where there's a hangnail versus Naya who had to just go in. Like, if you're DQ'd, you lose the challenge, and you both have to go into elimination.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. They absolutely, I understand why they didn't want to do it, because that would mean, you know, there's no threat of going in for this daily, but you still do it to see who wins, get the points. Theo 100% should have been the loser this week. Should have gone right into elimination. Like, I feel like the challenge precedent doesn't mean anything, but the challenge precedent has been set. Like, if you can't do the challenge, you go into elimination, and then like maybe there's no elimination this week if he has to go home. Again, precedent has been set for that. Like that's the move. I couldn't believe when they just like reshopped the pairs. It made no sense.
There are inconsistencies all the time, but this one for like the same issue is so bad. And then once again, it was a challenge that like, you're telling me he wasn't medically cleared to swim and not climb. Like there was no requirement that both partners had to climb. They could have swam out there, touched the wall, given up on the blocks, and just tried to beat other people who had 0 blocks. The challenge didn't necessitate the DQ or the switch up, and it's totally inconsistent with what they did to Naya. I'm infuriated.
Yeah, 100%. I felt the same way. And luckily, like, I mean, it's not when his partner was being affected like it was with Naya, but like this was, you know, just as bad.
The other thing I want to speak to, and you've already, you know, suggested you feel the same way, but like the hate CT was getting for now, quote unquote, suddenly being able to climb. First of all, he did a terrible job. He didn't get 1 block up. Like he didn't climb. Second of all, climbing a wall is a completely different climb than climbing a rope ladder or like cargo net. Both in terms of if you're afraid of heights, what level of heights you can see and experience versus just being on the wall and not looking down. And physically, it is much more difficult to climb that free ladder than it is to climb a wall.
Yep.
And also, not for nothing, just like the mental strain of everybody having already turned on you in the house and you know it's a men's day adds a different level of pressure to like triumph over your fear or your physical limitation. So like, I don't think anybody needed me to make that case, but the case nonetheless had to be made.
Yeah.
Justice for me.
Justice for us, justice for CT. It's ridiculous the hate that he was getting. And he lost, so he still sucked. So I don't know. Like he did it better than last time, but still not good enough.
So what did you think of the challenge? I obviously just screamed that I hated it and had to move on, but
yeah, it wasn't my favorite. I don't like challenges where most people can't fully complete what they're doing. I think that's like the biggest thing. Like, they must test drive these things, and unless the challenge producers were much better than everyone else, but it seemed like very few people were getting like all the blocks. I don't know if anyone, like, it just, I don't like they do a lot of times. These are these types of rewarded things where like it's too hard. Like, people are getting like the winners get like a quarter of the way done, and that's how they win. So this was one of those where maybe like the climbing things were too narrow, and like maybe they were wider in production, and then they like just tried to make it harder. So like the climbing footholds and handholds were very narrow. Like they wasn't giving them enough leverage to pull themselves up. I don't know, but yeah, like there's a balance between being too easy and too hard, and this was too hard of a daily.
A great point. I have written in my notes that the winners were Sydney and Lekka, which, like, honestly, it's true. Like, Lekka's likelihood of returning has to increase by this like catchphrase being justice for Lekka. And she needs justice. And then the losers are Michaela and CT by like 24 seconds on the swim. I think they really tried to make like a huge meal out of Michaela throwing this. And even TJ coming in and is like, can't believe the losers are Michaela and CT. I mean, I believe she was throwing it, but like she really left a slim margin. Like, she very easily could have accidentally not lost this challenge based on how close they were on the swim.
Right. At least this one, there's like some reasoning behind if she was throwing it. Like, there's a path to A to B to understand where it was. But yeah, I think they lost by what, 30 seconds? Like, that's like incredible timing from Michaela if that's what she was trying to do. But also, Michaela is scared of heights, and I don't think she's a good swimmer. I feel like that's like been established for her like end game prowess. So I think she might just also stink, and this is kind of a good outfit. Oh no, I don't stink at this. I was throwing it. I was getting CT justice for Lekka. Meanwhile, she just kind of stunk at this daily.
My podcast co-host said your company stinks. Okay, sorry. Yeah, and also, Sydney and Jeremy have already won because they won so decisively. Like, they had 4 blocks, and I think the next best was 2.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, if you want CT to go in, they could just put CT in. But in any case, at this point, I was like, I hope CT crushes anyone he goes against. I hope he smashes their skull and eats it like old school. Like, as Theo says, he's gonna harness the whatever power. Like, I was really, really rooting for CT at this point.
Yeah, I was too. I didn't want CT to go out like this. It felt like people were really trying to put the dirt on his coffin. It's like, this is still CT here.
And I was worried that like Theo wasn't going to clear his MRI. And then I was like, oh, like all this humiliation. And now CT is going to get the America +2, like, humiliatingly.
That too. That was my biggest concern, because I felt like as we were going through this episode, I'm like, we're still not the elimination yet. There's not that much time left. We're still not there. And in fact, the elimination would take 45 seconds of CT winning, so they can kind of yada yada this. But I was very worried of how this episode was tracking, that we weren't going to have enough time, and it was just going to be Theo being sent home.
Can you walk me through or speculate with me about what Jeremy's rationale is for, he immediately says he's going to focus on Derek K or Derek C. But like, is Jeremy really just like a person a la Jordan and Turbo who, like, if you're going to be the best, you got to beat the best? And that's why he wants CT out? Because just like, it makes no sense that those 3 would even be on his list to want to get out, including CT.
Yeah. I think Jeremy needed to like lean back into the Janes alliance to get some strategic thing. I don't think he's the brains of the operation based off some of the things he's been saying. I think he kind of just bought into the Kool-Aid of like the justice for Lekka thing about not wanting CT there. I think he's, for whatever reason, still wanted the revenge for Derek. The Derek's kind of saying his name to a degree. I mean, Derek Chavez, like, to his point, did call him out, but Jeremy would have wiped the floor with him in that elimination. It would have been quicker than this one. So it wasn't even that big of a deal either. So I think if people look for excuses like, oh, this person said my name, so I could just say theirs. But you should go like a step further, being like, yeah, this said my name. I could say their name, but should I say their name, or should I like, I think Jeremy needed to take that extra step of like, yeah, they said my name once, but I don't need to say his name.
Yeah, Jeremy reminds me a lot of like Yes from All Stars, like where he just like is really great physically and just like a really good competitor and people like him, but like there needs to be 1 or 2 more strategic notches like turned up, as opposed to just like we're all here to be like equitable. And And I think what's hurting him, and maybe not being as directly talked about, but if we're like putting the pieces together, is like Dee and Sydney in America have that sort of rookie women, vet women alliance from last week where they say, Dee says, I want to like be Newt strong, but I want it to be our Newts. Like, I'm not loyal to Izzy. I'm not loyal potentially to Tay and Adrian to extrapolate. So like, yeah, Jeremy needs to be like, I'm Newt strong, but to a degree, and I need to get out Jake, perhaps Leo, perhaps like the people who are not directly working with him. But Sydney and Dee are not going to tip him off to that because like they don't want the strong potential pairings gone. Or maybe they should want some strong potential Newts gone. Like Sydney should, if she feels confident she's going to get turbo, she should want every other strong man gone too. But yeah, like it is an interesting dynamic that I wish we were like seeing more directly discussed, because I do think people like Sydney and Dee are thinking about this at this level. It's just not making the edit.
Yeah, probably not. I think that, there's still like an hour and a half for these episodes. I think they could probably squeeze it in rather than some other stuff, but would like to hear more of the detailed discussion that they've got to be having. I'm sure they're like coming from Survivor. They're talking through these different options.
Here's something not that important, but I'd be remiss if I didn't bring it up because I've been thinking about it. I'm like, I don't want to be all like millennial old lady clutching my pearls. And I'm not. I'm just observing. But like, there seems to be more like picking up and throwing around and sexual pantomime on the dance floor this season than most seasons. Like, are you noticing that every time they cut to like people dancing, it's like someone got someone else in the air and they're bouncing them around.
There is a lot of that. There was also a very funny scene, and it's amazing. Like, they still have the excitement. It's like a kid on Christmas. But Ashley and Nani walk into the bar. There was like a tray of like glasses of champagne, and they just look so excited. Like, they've been doing this for so long, so many years, doing this club scene, going out on the challenge, and they see the plate of champagne glasses, and they're still ready to rock. And like, kudos to them, because I don't know how they go out at all, let alone all multiple nights. A lot of times, like, I guess, there's nothing else to do in the house. It's nice to get a fresh air or do something different. But I don't know how they do it. The drinking that they're going out, like, they're good for them with the energy.
Honestly, that was a live look at me walking into your wedding ceremony by myself when I didn't know anyone there and you had champagne before the reception or the ceremony. And I was like, that was me walking in there. Like, oh, I'm very excited. CT pro tip, Ali pro tip, have champagne before your wedding ceremony. That was an elite move. Yeah, Derek K says something similar where he's like, I'm going to decide if I drink this drink based on if I like feel like I'm going in, which is so funny. Cause like, again, it's like, I don't remember like what I had for lunch, but I always feel like Derek K was the first person to like reduce his partying and start taking this seriously 100 seasons ago. So it was like a funny little, probably unintentional nod that he's still there. Like, am I drinking it? Am I not drinking it? Am I going in? Am I not going in?
Yeah. We're not going to get any Brandon Nelsons being DQ'd for having one too many the night before. I don't think that's happening anytime soon.
Yeah, never. If we keep relying on these Newts, I don't know. Although honestly, I think the older vets, as to your point, are more likely to be drinking too much.
I think so.
So yeah, as we said, Derek makes a case. It's the right case. I think it's the right case. Just to the, he's a wrong kind of a logical audience. Yeah, I don't know. Anything else you want to talk about till we get to the deliberation?
No, we kind of talked through the Olivia stuff. Not really.
I'll say, I really thought Derek K was going in from watching it, because he has that moment with Dee where like, I don't know if Dee is just really good at keeping her allies under the radar, or if Derek is just really not plugged into what's going on in the house. Cause like him telling Dee he's least connected to the two people in power who are her two closest allies, but he's going to opt to do nothing to try to stay out of elimination. I was like, okay, Derek K is going in. And like, we knew from last week it was going to be pole wrestle. So I was like, Derek K and CT pole wrestle, that like, I'm in.
Yeah. He also had the family segment of like, he's doing it for his kids. It's like, all right. Like, I think the challenge has gotten better of like, not of showing that stuff, not when they go home, but like when they're going into elimination. So I had the same thought of like, oh, Derek K is going to go in. He's going to beat CT in the elimination. So that's going to be kind of fun. The one thing I did this week, though, I should note for myself, I don't know if anyone else did, I skipped ahead. the this episode on. This episode
Oh, yeah.
started. I went boom, 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 jump ahead a minute or whatever it is. I'm staying clear of that. So if anything happens in those minutes that like is pertinent that's not discussed in this episode, I'm not aware of it because I'm avoiding that. I'm jumping in episode clean.
Well, if they're showing something in this episode on that does not make air in the episode, we cannot be held responsible for that.
Correct.
That is bad editing. And I agree. Fool me 7 times, shame on you. Fool me 8 times, shame on me. I also did not watch this.
Like we're getting down to it. I don't want to be like this coming up with the final. It's between these two people who's gonna win, and those person. Like I'm avoiding that. So people should do the same.
All right, so let's get to the deliberation then. We find out it's going to be Derek C put up against Theo. And I really thought Theo was going to get voted in after being cleared here. It ends up being Derek C unanimously, other than John A. What was your reaction to this?
Stunned. Kind of across all counts. Because again, I thought Theo was going home. Did not happen. Then I thought Derek K was going to be picked to go up against him. Did not happen. And then when Derek C was nominated, I was like, all right, he's probably going to go in. I thought it would be a pretty close vote. Like I had my tally ready to go. I'm like, all right, 1 vote Derek, 2 votes Derek, and then they yada yada it. I was not ready for the yada yada vote to have Derek Chavez go in. So that was very surprising.
I do not understand why the people who are not working with Olivia, I definitely thought Olivia's crew would vote with Theo against Derek because Olivia's obviously not going to vote in her boyfriend. Mm-hmm. And then by proxy, I think Theo being British and being a core member of Olivia's alliance is probably closer with, maybe Jake and Anissa, maybe Tay, maybe Adrian, depending on what their partners feel.
Right.
Everybody else to me should be voting for Derek C.
I would think so, unless
voting with Derek C, voting for Theo.
Unless they all just believe this justice for Leka, and for some reason that means voting in Derek C. I don't know. It's very odd. There was this very weird group thing that hasn't really hit the house this season. There's been a lot of more split votes and people doing their own thing, but for whatever reason, this week the group think really took over, and people were just not looking to make a move the other way.
Well, because maybe Justin and Turbo are angry, but Turbo ends up honoring John A's vote and then saying he wants CT to come back, which is okay, I guess who committed the bigger crime, the person who voted for you versus the person who you just decided you hate because of his performance. It was very confusing. Unless to your point, which I think Derek C made this case, maybe only to confessional, but do you think Derek C, if the only motivation was who can beat CT because we want CT out, do you think Derek C is the correct choice over Theo, but also over anyone else eligible to go in?
No, I think Derek C matches up worst to CT because Derek C's best skill set is a lot of his puzzle ability, and that's honestly that's CT's best skill set. CT's physical ability is obviously a big plus for his game, but it's only big when it's a pure size advantage, like it is here over Derek. Against other people, for Theo, where his physical ability is not as much of an advantage. It's usually his strategic thinking and puzzles and thinking through a game and how to best master it, which is also Derek's best ability. Unless it was just a pure endurance thing, if it was the elimination a couple weeks ago where it was running back and forth and jumping over the platform and hitting the button, that would be the only thing that Derek would have that much of an advantage over CT in.
See, I think it's not who I would put forward as the person most likely to beat CT, but I think I would give Derek's win equity against this current iteration of CT 75%. Because if I look at the arena games, right, the Justin versus Rogan wheel, Derek has that over CT. Probably CT's, smart at his approach to challenges, but I still think Derek has the ability because I think you need endurance there too. So I think Derek has that. Derek has the crowd. I think all of those things would play into it. The laser balls in, Derek, I think would beat CT in that. That's agility. I don't think you were able
I don't know.
to.
CT could just hold him down and he just wouldn't move.
Were you allowed to do that?
I guess maybe were your hands tied? Something like that. What was it? I can't remember.
No detail here in the Wikipedia. the offense defense with the rope and the bananas game elimination. CT has that. That's the same
Yeah,
kind of weight
definitely.
thing. Okay, the football.
Yeah, he beats Derek at the
Ball
one he won.
brawl.
And he beats him at that one.
Yep. And then the Olivia, Derek would win.
Yeah.
And I think the Izzy Taylor one, Derek has a over 50% chance of beating CT in.
I know that was last week. What was that one again?
Yeah, that was like the hoops and and I mean that was basically endurance. You had to run and get the bricks and run back and whatever. So I don't know. It was like a weird choice if your only motivation is for someone to beat CT, but I still thought Derek had a really good chance on something that wasn't pole wrestle.
Yeah, I mean, this was by far the worst. Even the Hall Brawl, like the one that he won, he had a better chance at because at least that was still some level of like speed first. But this one, the second he walked in the door, he should have just like saved himself the pain and just packed it up.
Yeah. No, honestly, I have to say, so like going into this pole wrestle in the arena, if CT did not beat Derek in this challenge, then it is like a mercy to CT's reputation that he was eliminated in this one. Like, it would be so bad for the kid. It would be worse than Jay beating him. Like, this would just be inexplicable. Like, take a few seasons off at that point if Derek beats you in this. And not because of Derek, but just because of the complete pound for pound disadvantage that Derek has and how this is just completely about size. But also, I have to give it up to Derek for allowing himself to completely go into the lion's den on this. Like, it would have been reasonable for Derek to say, I'm not doing this. Like, it was unsafe to watch Derek compete against CT in this.
Yeah. I'm glad he didn't come out hurt. It seemed like maybe he did after the first one. I mean, I think seemingly the second round lasted like probably like 20 seconds. I think, maybe he put up a decent amount of fight in the first heat, but yeah, I'm glad he didn't get hurt. So
Derek, the second round, CT threw Derek over his shoulders like a stick with a handkerchief off of it. Like, like MMA fighters wouldn't survive in that hold. Like, that was, I mean, to just have the full weight of CT laying on your face and not give up. I'm just really, Derek put up an unbelievable just effort against this beast.
Yeah. It was a no contest. So good for CT of doing the bare minimum. Good for Derek for putting up enough of a fight.
I will also pledge $100 to charity right now if Wes in the next 2 days tweets about how unfair it is that Derek and CT had to go up against each other here.
Wait, like if he does it? I mean, that tweet's coming the second this episode is over. That is his first tweet.
That's insane. Then that's insane. Then it makes his position even worse.
His whole thing is like they should decide eliminations based off the size of the people, and then
but I thought he was like biased towards bananas and against the new threats. If he's also saying that like CT had an unfair, you're right. Well, I'm happy to give $100 to charity.
Yeah, I think unless I'm misremembering, like I think his whole thing was like, how stupid is it that like we have eliminations where it's like a proportionally horrible size disadvantage? So I would be floored if his initial tweet is like,
okay, fine. Then at least
what a riveting elimination this was, something like that.
He's an equal opportunity dummy in that case, even though he's not making that tweet about puzzles and any other disadvantage.
Yeah, did they do equal opportunity IQ tests before elimination?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I don't know. Could anyone have beaten CT at this, Gabe?
I mean, honestly, like, it sounds stupid, but I think Derek K probably wins because I think he has enough of the strength to hold them over, and he will out-tire CT. That I think he would find a way to win. I mean, he almost beat. I think he did beat Joss in this, and Joss is like CT at his prime physical, and he beat him at this. So I think he would somehow find a way to win.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a better chance than Derek Chavez, certainly a better chance than anybody else who has a size disadvantage from CT because this is like Derek's lifeblood. But I thought Derek lost the last pole wrestle he was in. Did I make that up? In any case, I think what CT has that Josh doesn't have is experience. Because like a lot of this is like knowing what to do and like having strategy and not just like going crazy or trying to rip it out. So I still think Derek in his current condition with his ACL or whatever, tough to say that CT wouldn't just flatten him in the same way he did Derek.
I know, but I feel like we always like Derek. I feel like in his pole wrestles, he always gets someone like a CT, and he just somehow finds a way. Like he just knows how to do this one. So like this is the Derek elimination. Like this, like if you pair up like who's the most connected to one thing, like Derek K in a pole wrestle is like maybe number one.
Yeah, he's beaten Johnny, which I think is Johnny Riley, or is that Johnny Bananas? Brandon, Joss, and then he's lost against Wes.
That was old school. That was like early. I think that was like, allegedly steroid Wes, and that was like partying Derek.
It's Johnny Bananas, not Johnny Riley.
Okay. I think that was like the duel, right? Or one of the it was one of those very
actually this image has to be incorrect. Because they have that Derek beat Bananas, but in Bananas' record, they don't show a picture of him having lost to Derek. So, everyone's gonna. Honestly, we like have to stay on until I find out this answer because, I don't want tweets about this.
About if it was Bananas or not. I don't really remember a Derek K Bananas Hall.
Let's see. Okay, so Wes versus Derek was in the duel.
Yeah.
Was that? You think Wes was being enhanced then? Let's not talk about that.
Well, that was the time of when the alleged suspicions were out there, and I think that was again like before. I think that was still Party Derek.
Okay. Let's see. Hold on. Okay, here we go.
That's basically it for this week. So if you don't care about this, you can.
Yeah, get out of here. Well, you're already left.
You can get out of here, Scott.
Okay. Pull me over. Tyler. So they're saying that no, this isn't just Derek's. Is this just
Maybe it was
Derek's?
like a weird iteration of
Help me like find this.
Like the pillow wrestle.
This is I remember this. He beat Mark in Battle of the Eras.
Yeah, exactly. Mark is like the exact type that you would think would have the
AI sucks, man. Like AI didn't know the answer. Okay, so it looks like Tyler beat him in something called Pull Me Over. I don't know if that's full wrestle. Oh, this is so bad, guys. It's late. Okay, don't be fooled by Brian being in the studio. Emily just wanted to look good, which she already did.
Always. Subscribe. robwoodswebsite.com/challenge feed. Follow me on Twitter, _. I'll follow you.
You could follow me nowhere, but hold on. Okay, so apparently they did a this is coming from Alan Aguiar's blog. Mm-hmm. So apparently they did Derek went against Johnny and Abram on the island, but it was like not an elimination.
Okay.
And
well, because the island didn't really have eliminations. It was like
it was the
challenges and stuff. Like I don't know. It was weird season.
I don't know how the three of them did this, but Wes beat him on the duel. Okay, he beat Joss. Okay, that's when he was a mercenary.
Yeah, Derek K was the mercenary. Yeah.
Okay, so like honestly, spoiler alert, like has Derek not really done is this like Mandela effect? Derek has like not done pole wrestle that many times.
So yeah, I mean,
so he's lost one and won one, and then like Mark wasn't on here, so he's like won two and lost one.
That's wild.
I don't know. All right, fine. Like leave the comments, whatever. Just like no, we tried, and like we're trying. You know what? As CT would say, CT pro tip off the cuff. Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. I don't know why I went down this road. Whatever. I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens next week. Also, I think this is the payoff of the cheater audio that you've been pointing out since the beginning.
That's what it seems like for the mini final, which will be fun. So we'll be back next week for episode 9. Until then,
we're booed off the internet by people being like, "You don't know how many times Derek K won pole wrestle off the top of your head." Bye.
Till next time.
This is RHAP, We know reality TV.